My dad confessed I wasn't his daughter after I suggested getting a fun holiday DNA test for our family. My dad just told me he's not my biological father, and I'm sitting in my childhood bedroom staring at the genealogy website on my laptop that caused this entire disaster. I suggested we all do DNA tests as a fun Christmas activity 3 days ago. My dad pulled me aside an hour ago and said we needed to talk before I submitted my sample. He's been crying for the past 20 minutes telling me my mom had an affair 29 years ago and I'm the result. My whole family is downstairs eating pizza. And I'm supposed to go down there and pretend everything is normal. I'm Sophia, I'm 29. I work as an archivist for a university library. I've always been obsessed with family history and genealogy. Last month I convinced my parents and my brother Josh to do DNA tests with me so we could map out our family tree for a project I wanted to put together. I bought 4 test kits during a Black Friday sale. They arrived last week. Everyone thought it was a cute idea. My mom said it would be interesting to see what regions we're from. Josh joked that he hoped we weren't related to anyone famous because he didn't want the pressure. My dad didn't say much, but he took his kit. I knew this was a risk. I see it at work all the time. People discover their parents aren't who they thought. Adoptions nobody mentioned. Affairs that produced children. I just never imagined my own family had anything to hide. 3 days ago I sent individual texts to everyone reminding them to mail their samples before the December 15th deadline so we'd get results by late January. My dad called me within 5 minutes. He said, I need to talk to you about something. Can you come over tonight? I figured he had questions about how the test worked or maybe privacy concerns. I drove over after work expecting a short conversation. Instead, he sat me down in the living room and kept gripping his knees like he was trying to hold himself together. He said when my mom was pregnant with me she told him there was a chance I wasn't his. They'd been going through a rough patch. She'd reconnected with an ex-boyfriend. It lasted about 2 months. When she found out she was pregnant she ended things with the other guy immediately. My dad said he'd decided it didn't matter. He wanted to raise me regardless. They'd never told me because what difference would it make? I asked if he was saying this because of the DNA test. He said yes, if we all submitted our samples the results would show he wasn't my biological father. Josh would see it. Everyone would see it. He wanted to tell me himself first. He said my mom had been begging him for 3 days not to say anything. She thought maybe if they just ignored my reminders the whole thing would fade away, but he couldn't take that risk. I asked if he knew who my biological father was. He said yes, a man named Richard Castellano. He lived 2 towns over. He was a real estate agent. My dad had looked him up over the years just to know. Richard had no idea I existed. My mom had never told him. I asked why not. My dad said because she'd chosen their marriage, chosen our family. Telling Richard would have complicated everything. I asked if my mom knew he was telling me this. He said no. She was going to be furious, but he couldn't let me submit that DNA test and find out this way. I asked what he wanted me to do. He said that was up to me. If I wanted to submit the test anyway and deal with the fallout, that was my choice. If I wanted to pretend this conversation never happened and throw the tests away, that was also my choice. He said he'd love me either way. I asked if he'd told Josh. He said no, Josh doesn't know. I asked if anyone else in the family knew. He said just my mom's sister Ellen, but she'd kept the secret for 29 years. I asked him to tell Josh and my parents not to submit their tests. He said he already had. He'd texted them earlier saying there were privacy concerns with the company and he wanted to research alternatives. Josh had responded asking what kind of concerns, but my dad had been vague. My parents obviously knew the real reason. Update 11 days later. I didn't submit my DNA test right away. I told my dad I needed time to think. He seemed relieved. My mom has been calling me constantly. I kept making excuses about work. She didn't believe me. Yesterday she drove to my apartment after calling 3 times with no answer. I had to let her in. We sat on my couch and she immediately asked if Dad had told me. I said yes. She closed her eyes and said she knew he would. I asked why she never told me herself. She said because I'm her daughter and Robert is my father in every way that matters. The biology doesn't change 29 years of him raising me. I said maybe not for her, but it changes everything for me. She said no, it doesn't. I'm still the same person I was 2 weeks ago. I said but I don't know who that person actually is anymore. She said yes you do, you're my daughter. I asked about Richard. She said she hadn't spoken to him in almost 30 years, didn't know anything about his current life, didn't want to know. I asked if she'd loved him. She said at the time she thought she did, but looking back it was just escape. She loved my dad. What happened with Richard was a mistake. I asked if she ever thought about telling Richard he had a daughter. She said no, never, because that would have put my dad's relationship with me at risk and he was the one who deserved to be my father. I asked what she thought I should do. She said nothing. Throw away the test kit. Forget this conversation ever happened. Keep living our lives. I said I don't think I can do that. She started crying. She said if I went looking for Richard it would destroy our family. I said finding out my dad isn't my biological father already destroyed something. She said that's dramatic. Nothing has to change unless I force it to change. I said everything already changed the second Dad told me. My mom left after about an hour. Josh called me that night. My parents had told him everything. He asked why I hadn't called him. I said I didn't know what to say. He asked if I was okay. I said no. He asked if I was going to look for Richard. I said I was thinking about it. He said that would really hurt Mom and Dad. I said Mom and Dad hurt me by lying for 29 years. He said they were trying to protect me. I said they were protecting themselves. He didn't argue. My coworker Maya is the only other person who knows. I told her because I was a mess at work and she asked what was wrong. She asked what I was going to do. I said I wanted to submit the DNA test. I wanted real answers about my ancestry, my medical history, whether I have half-siblings. She asked if I was prepared for what I might find. I said no, but I couldn't just ignore it. She said that made sense. She also pointed out that this was going to permanently change my relationship with my parents. I said it already has. I've been searching public records for Richard Castellano. I found his real estate license, property records for his house, his marriage record from 1983, a newspaper article about his retirement last year. I printed it all out and put it in a folder on my desk. I look at it sometimes trying to imagine what kind of person he is. I submitted my DNA test 3 days ago. I mailed it from a post office across town. My parents don't know. Josh doesn't know. It's done. The website says results take 6 to 8 weeks. I'll have answers by February. Update 9 weeks later. My DNA results came back last week. The email arrived on a Tuesday while I was at work processing a donation of Civil War letters. I went to the bathroom to open it because I couldn't have anyone see my face if the results were bad. The ethnicity breakdown showed Italian, Greek, and some Eastern European that matched my mom's side. Under relatives there was a close family match listed as half-sibling. Her name was Angela Castellano, 34 years old. She'd built out a detailed family tree showing Richard as her father. She had 2 other siblings listed, Vincent 31 and Maria 27. They'd all taken DNA tests. I had 3 half-siblings who didn't know I existed. I messaged Angela through the website. I said I'd gotten my results and saw we matched as half-siblings. I asked if she had time to talk about how we might be related. She wrote back the next day. She said she was confused because both her parents had been together since before she was born. She asked if I knew which parent we shared. I said I believed it was her father Richard. She asked how old I was. I said 29. She went quiet for 2 days. When Angela messaged again she said she'd talked to her brother and sister. They were all shocked. Their dad had been with their mom since 1983. She asked if my mom had known Richard. I said yes. In 1995, she said her parents went through a rough patch that year. They almost separated. She asked if I'd met Richard. I said no. My mom never told him about me. Angela asked why not. I said my mom chose to stay with her husband and raise me as his daughter. Angela said this was a lot to process. Angela called me a week later. We talked for 2 hours. She's a nurse. She has 2 daughters. She lives in Hartford. She said she'd told Vincent and Maria about me. Vincent was cautiously interested. Maria was upset. Angela said their dad doesn't know yet. She didn't know how to tell him. I said I understood. She asked what I wanted. I said I wanted to know who he is, what he's like, whether we have anything in common. She said those seemed like reasonable things to want. She asked if she could think about how to handle this. I said of course. I told my parents about the results 3 weeks ago. I went to their house on a Sunday afternoon. Josh was there too. My dad asked if I'd gotten my DNA results. I said yes. I'd connected with 3 half-siblings. My mom got very still. She asked if I'd talked to any of them. I said yes. I'd been messaging with Angela for a few weeks. My dad asked how that was going. I said weird but not terrible. Josh asked if Richard knew about me yet. I said no. My mom said she'd spent 29 years keeping this contained and now it was all coming apart. I said maybe it needed to come apart. She said I was being selfish. I said she had an affair and hid my biological father from me for my entire life. She doesn't get to call me selfish. My dad told us to stop. My mom left the room. Josh said this was really hard on everyone. I said it was hardest on me because I'm the one who doesn't know who she is. My dad said I'm his daughter. That's who I am. I said biology is part of identity whether he likes it or not. Final update 4 months later. Angela told Richard about me 2 months ago. She called me right after. She said he didn't say anything for several minutes. Then he asked to see the DNA results. She showed him on her laptop. He asked why my mother never told him. Angela said she didn't know. He asked if I wanted to meet him. Angela said she'd find out. I told her yes. Richard emailed me through Angela. He gave me his phone number and said to call whenever I was ready. I waited a week, then called him on a Saturday morning. We talked for maybe 20 minutes. He said he had no idea my mother was pregnant. If he'd known, he would have wanted to be part of my life. He asked about my work and where I lived. I told him the basics. He told me about his 5 grandchildren and his retirement. Neither of us knew what we were supposed to say to each other. At the end, he asked if I'd meet him in person. I said yes. We met at a botanical garden that was halfway between us. It was March, so nothing was blooming yet, but it was neutral territory. He was standing by the entrance when I arrived. I recognized him from photos Angela had sent. We shook hands, which felt bizarre. We started walking the paths. He asked about the archives. I explained what I do. He seemed interested. He told me about selling houses for 35 years. After about 30 minutes of this, I finally said we should probably talk about the actual situation. He laughed nervously and said yes, probably. I asked why he thought my mom never told him. He said he'd been thinking about that constantly. Their relationship had been intense but brief. His marriage was falling apart at the time. Maybe my mom didn't want to complicate things further. I said, or she just wanted to stay with her husband. He said yes, that too. He asked if I blamed him for not being there. I said no. He didn't know I existed. He asked if I was angry at my mom. I said sometimes. Mostly I'm just confused. He asked what I wanted from him now. I said honestly, I don't know. Maybe just to know you're real. He said he could do that. I've seen Richard 5 times now. It's still awkward. We're trying to figure out what a relationship looks like when you meet your father at 29. Angela invited me to a family dinner last month. Her daughters kept staring at me. Vincent was friendly. Maria barely spoke to me. Angela told me later that Maria is having a hard time with the idea that their dad had another child. I said I get it. This is weird for everyone. My relationship with my parents has changed permanently. My mom and I talk, but there's distance now. My dad keeps trying to act like everything's normal, but it's not. Josh comes over once a week to check on me. He said watching our family fall apart is harder than he expected. I said it was already apart. We just didn't know it. Richard gave me copies of his family genealogy files. I've been building up the Castellano side of my tree. His grandfather came from Naples in 1903. There are immigration records and naturalization papers, census records showing the whole family in Brooklyn. I'm doing the work I love, except now it's my own history. Angela sends me old photos, pictures of Richard's parents and grandparents, people I'm genetically connected to but never knew existed until now. My dad asked me yesterday if I regretted doing the DNA test. I said no. He asked even with everything that's happened to our family. I said we weren't being honest before. At least now we are. He said honesty isn't always better. Sometimes it just hurts people. I said yeah, but at least it's real. He didn't respond to that. I'm spending Easter with Richard's family next month. Angela is hosting. Maria agreed to come. It'll be the first time we're all together. My parents know, but they're not talking about it. My mom told Josh she feels like she's losing me. Josh told me that. I don't know what to say because maybe she is losing something, but I'm gaining something too. I'm gaining the truth.